don't see a lot of body shots in hockey scraps. Is that, I don't know, is that a...
Well, yeah, I mean, you also don't see a lot of guys getting jumped from behind and headlocked, and then, you know, when you want to fuck around, sometimes you got to find out. So that's what happened.
What's up? Welcome back to the Crude Oil Podcast. It's episode number 45. Sean, we're heading back to Edmonton with a 1-1 series. Vegas split, baby.
I don't even know what to say, really. Like, after game one, I think myself and all the other fans were pretty dejected and feeling pretty down on themselves. But holy fuck, Edmonton came back and proved why we are the odds-on Cups favorites right now.
Oh, I know. Like, it was so easy to look at game one and just start to really take Vegas extremely seriously, to the point that we're starting to doubt our own team. Like, I was getting texts from friends being like, you got to change the goaltender, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I'm like, what you got to do is you got the team to fucking show up. It was just completely different games.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of start Jack Campbells from people after game one, as if like most of those goals were even Skinner's fault. Like, realistically, they were kind of just brain farts out of our defense over and over again. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's one of those
totally.
situations where you'd like him to have one, obviously, but you can't get them all.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll get into those games and everything that we've seen so far here. But before we get started, just a reminder, you guys can follow us on on YouTube and Twitter at Crude Oil Podcast. And then, yeah, just jump into the conversation. It was a little bit dead, it felt, last night, but it was kind of a weird kind of timed game. But I'm sure as this series goes on, things are going to get more and more crazy, especially what we saw in game two. So feel free to throw out your thoughts and considerations for what the Edmonton Oilers should be doing. Yeah, we'll bring it up every single podcast. That being said, I think it's a good time to start it off with a caveat that we have some housekeeping stuff going on, because as I'm sure, there's so many crazy wildfires in Alberta right now, and Sean's got an extra full house right now.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Like, I'm watching my brother's dog while his family's cooped up somewhere else in somebody else's hair. But I think a lot of people are going through the same thing. So hope everybody's safe out there, and hopefully everyone's getting the help they need.
Yeah, definitely. Hope everybody's safe. And if you have dogs barking in the podcast, that's life, man. Yeah, let's dive straight into things. Let's talk about game one. Heading into it, I thought it was going to be a fairly, competitive game, but it was the furthest thing from it.
Well, I'm going to say, so are we going to jump into game two, or are we going to cover game one first?
Well, let's go to game one to game two.
Okay, we'll start with game one. And I think it was a very competitive game, to be fair. And the fact that Edmonton managed to stay in the game when I would say we're not even close to playing our best was pretty impressive. Like, just our ability to come back and stay within like arm's reach of that and not let ourselves get blown away. Like, after the 3-1 goal by Vegas, I think a lot of people were pretty dejected. And I know, like, me, myself, I'm confident Edmonton can always come back because they've done it a million times. But with the effort that they were bringing, especially, like, they came back, it was awesome. And then all of a sudden Vegas scored 2 more goals back to back. I was like, well, now I'm dejected again. It
Right.
Classic Edmonton power or playoffs and pulling at my heartstrings over and over and over again.
Yeah. I was thinking competitive in the sense, like, I think when I was looking back at this game and going through it again, like, it was competitive on the score sheet, but I thought Vegas walked this team in game one. Like, there was no, like, other than, the insane efforts that Leon Draisaitl was putting through, he was really the only person that showed up consistently from start to finish, like a motivated player in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I thought the Oilers did a great job to bounce back, and a couple plays here and there got him back in it, but I only think that's a result of like a very select number of players.
Yeah, I would agree. Like Draisaitl was clearly, at least offensively, the only player who showed up. I think McDavid had a few good chances. He was skating, he was flying out there, but I would say watching at least, I didn't look at the stats when it comes to turnovers, but I don't think I've seen McDavid give the puck up more times in my life than in game 1.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really weird, hey? Like it's the thing that stood out to me that I was looking back after game 1 is the fact that the Edmonton Oilers had 10 giveaways to Vegas's 8, but the takeaways were like absolutely insane. Vegas had 18 takeaways and the Oilers had like 7. It's crazy.
Well, like looking at this game on an overall perspective, I would say it was a mixture of Edmonton being too used to playing against LA's 1-3-1,
Mhm.
and just not being ready for the forecheck on either side. So, for example, when like they're playing defense, they would have 2 guys on them every time, and their D had to make decisions quickly because they had 2 guys instead of the 1 forechecker on them. And it
Right.
made them make poor decisions. You saw it with Vinny. You saw it, I believe it was Costin and Ekholm made some questionable passes on the 5th goal by Vegas.
Yeah.
And like they just were so pressured and they didn't have time to think, essentially,
Ye
creating huge turnovers. And then going the other way, say, for example, we're talking about McDavid and his giveaways. So in the
Mhm.
LA series, if he hits the blue line with speed, generally speaking, he's against like maybe one guy because they're playing the 1-3-1. There's one guy left. He blew through 3 guys in the neutral zone. And
Mhm.
then playing against Vegas, they have 2 guys back there
Yeah.
because they kind
Well,
of play more of a 2-1 with both defensemen back on the blue line.
yeah, I saw a clip of Luke Gazdic talking about that and basically brought the same thing up that you had is the Oilers are still playing the LA Kings the way they're forechecking and like you'd mentioned, it's funny you bring that up because like the thing that I was getting like irate at towards the end of the game is they're making a push and like classic Oilers playing with your emotions and just like never really feeling out of it, which was very exciting considering how outplayed I thought the team was. But towards the end of the game, when they're trying to force that tying goal, I don't know how many opportunities they had to get through like into the offensive zone, and rather than dumping the puck or trying something new, is always that splitting it up the middle. But there nothing along the wall, everything in the middle dots, like uh, it was just it was really frustrating, and I think we saw the big adaptation from game 1 to game 2 with the way that they forechecked and the way that the team was just completely different.
Yeah, and like let's look at game 1. Like what in your opinion are the positive takeaways to take away from game 1, if any?
um, well, there's a couple of different things. The first thing is the fact that Leon Draisaitl is playing at a clip that I don't know if I'll ever see in my lifetime again, in the playoffs anyways. 2, we haven't won a game 1 since 2017. Uh, and 3, I think what was interesting is that in specifically talking about goaltending, I thought that Skinner had a ton of shaky moments, but he had a ton of moments that he looked like the most unreal goaltender on the planet. Like it's funny. Like I was talking to a buddy. I was like, I've never seen a goalie play so amazing and so shitty in the same game.
Well, I don't know if I would say shitty per
Yeah, maybe
se.
shitty's a really strong word, so I'm gonna walk that back. It was a very okay. Like there's definitely some goals I think he could have taken a second crack at and had better luck with, but um yeah,
Yeah, like if
yeah.
if we're talking shitty for it, like I know you kind of walk that back a little bit, but like the first goal was Desharnais having a brain fart and giving the puck away, creating absolute fucking chaos in front of the net. So like one that would be one that I would like Skinner to save, but the fact that he didn't, I'm like, okay, you can kind of put that one on the defense. Then
Mhm.
the next one was the super aggressive pinch by Nurse when it was
Yeah.
essentially a 3-on-2. And then Draisaitl stopped skating once he hit the blue line on the way back. Essentially, it created a wide open shot on the far side that beat Skinner. Once again, Skinner could have had it, but I'm not
was the
necessarily
one.
mad at him for that one either, because it's a wide open look, and our defense and our forward should have played it better. The next goal was the tip-in, like the shot past tip-in by Mark Stone, and that was Desharnais giving the puck away down low and resulting in that tip, and for some reason Stone's wide open, so he just gets all the time in the world to line that up. The fourth goal was another tip by Barbashev, who's wide open in front, and I hate to pile on Vinny, probably like everybody else has, but he for some reason was essentially at the top of the left circle instead of taking the man away out front. So I think he kind of got lost in the cycle that Vegas was doing, and somehow he ended up over there, and nobody was covering the D-man out front. You could say maybe McLeod was supposed to cover him. Regardless, wide open guy who's tipping the puck, like no chance for Skinner on either of the tips. And then the last one that's not the empty netter was the 3-on-3 rush by Vegas, where Edmonton double committed on the guy crashing the net for some reason, leaving Stevenson wide open on the other side for the one-timer, which I give him zero chance on. So maybe 2 of those goals I would expect or hope that he would save, and 3 of them I'm like, okay, like you really didn't have a chance on those.
Yeah, I have 3. I think one of those I'm a little bit indifferent about, but I'm going to rephrase that. I think I've never seen a goaltender make so many stops that he wasn't expected to, while still letting in stops that or letting in goals that you'd expect him to stop.
Well, like I'm giving him a hard time, like giving the D a hard time, but he still let in 5 fucking goals. You can't win games letting in 5 goals. Like if he let in 3 goals and they were all iffy, questionable goals, but we still won like 4-3, I'd be like, whatever, he played fine. He played well enough to win.
So that's exactly why I said it's a positive thing.
Yes.
It's because he kept fighting and he didn't have a team around him.
Well, to add on to that too, on the other side of the coin, another positive that I think they definitely took away from this game was that they still got 4 pass Brossoit on 27 shots.
Yeah.
That's a positive you take away. Be like, okay, it doesn't look like, at least so far, like I don't want to jinx it or anything, obviously, but like we can get 4 passes, guys. We have the confidence to be able to score goals. So that should not be a problem in this series. And it's a matter of just playing defense. And you can see it with their power play. Like that's another positive takeaway. They were 2 for 3 in the power play in game 1, just continuing this torrid pace of this unbelievable power play that they have right now.
Yeah, it's absolutely stupid how good this power play is. And we'll get to it in game 2, but it's almost like a death sentence to the other team. Like as soon as they take a penalty at this point, like it's wild, just wild. I wanted to talk to you about what your thoughts were towards the end of the game with the too many men penalty.
I still think that call was horseshit, but that's just me. I'm going to be a little biased toward it. Well, the only reason, like, I understand there's 7 fucking guys on the ice. It's probably too many men. But with 2 minutes left in the game, in a change that they're making that the play is not even near, I'm like, why are the refs making that call? It just doesn't make sense, especially when all they do is fucking shove game management up our asses. Then they go and do shit like that. Like that should have been going against Vegas. Not so we could get power play, so we can score, so we can go to overtime. Like, what is this bullshit? And like, the only reason I'm mad is obviously because we lost, and it's partially because of that. But like, just with the shit they weren't calling, and then they go ahead and call that, just made me feel a little like uneasy. Be like, is this what's going to be happening in the series?
Yeah, I'm very much with you. I think the thing that I was upset about is then like the fact is very inconsequential. Like you mentioned, the play wasn't dictated by having 7 guys on the ice, but I mean, it felt like a tic-tacky penalty, and you kind of gotta lick your wounds at that point. It was kind of like, I don't know, sitting there, it's kind of like the hockey gods being like, well, you guys didn't decide to be, or deserve to be this close into the game anyway. So like,
I mean, that's one way to look at it. I'm willing to take that if it means that we roll the rest of it because we learned our lesson.
Yeah. But as we transition out of this game, I don't think we can go past the interaction between Mark Spector and Leon Draisaitl. We'll play that right here.
Take some joy out of scoring 4 tonight. It's not like that happens every night.
No. So, initial thoughts, Sean?
I don't know. What do you want me to say? I don't like Mark Spector. He asks stupid fucking questions. Like, I think you
But
feel the same way. What are your thoughts?
well, yeah, like, do you take any like should Leon like sit back at the end of this game and whatsoever be like, oh yeah, I got 4 goals. That's pretty good.
Well, like
Back
at
to
the end of the day, he's just like McDavid. He doesn't give a fuck what he does individually. He wants to win the game. And if scoring 4 goals helps win the game, that's great. He'll do it
Yeah.
every day. But if they win a game and he scores 0 goals, then he's just as happy.
it's yeah, it was an extremely poorly timed. It wasn't even a fucking question, really. That's the thing. Is like when you're just like you got to do this. You got like you're insinuating that he should be feeling a certain way coming from a guy who's like behind all of the hockey, the playing and everything on the ice. So it was dumb. Uh, Again, another incident where I'd love to be like in an unfiltered position where he could actually say what he's thinking.
Well, I'd love to see if there's some like off the record shit. Is that is like as soon as they're done, where he's just like, "Hey,
Mhm.
Mark, can I talk to you?" And be like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, right.
Like, geez, that's all I want to hear is like the be a fly on the wall and the off the record conversations these guys have.
Well, that might have been one of the greatest gifts we ever got as Oilers fans is when they're wrapping up that press conference last year and McDavid's like, "Spec, can I talk to you?" And just like the video went dead. Like, well, good, good.
Well, like I don't know. I expect a bit more, and I understand that they lost, and you want to grill the players to be like, "What the fuck was that?" But the last person you should point fingers at that game and even ask those kind of questions to is Leon. To be like,
Yeah,
"Are you mad that your team didn't score as many goals as you did?"
yeah,
Like that's the kind of fucking kindergarten shit that I'm expecting.
yeah. It was cool from an outsider's perspective who's not obviously getting paid to get wins and in the locker rooms. It was cool to see him achieve that milestone, and especially on back-to-back nights with what was going on with Pavelski. But in the end, like it doesn't matter. We only care about W's at this point, and yeah, it's cool to see the progression and how things are going. But yeah, in the end, doesn't matter. We look ahead to game 2. Did you have any expectations heading into the game yesterday?
Well, I guess before we kind of get into that, we'll kind of, I guess, talk about those expectations. With Yanmark getting hurt, we kind of glossed over that, which
That's right.
fucking
Yes.
sucks for him. And I
Yes.
wish him all the best to feel better soon because I was so excited to have him back in the lineup.
I know.
My tune has completely changed since the beginning of the year, clearly. But I was very excited to have him back, and it really sucked to see him go out that way. And I hope he can still heal up and maybe come back, but it did not look promising. I'll say that much. With that being
Yeah.
said, the expectation for sure was Derek Ryan was coming into the lineup to replace Yanmark, but the real question mark was whether or not Vinny Desharnais would be playing in another game.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you can't really gloss over the performance we had in game 1. Um,
I mean, I'm pretty sure he was trending on Twitter. And if
yeah.
your like third pairing defenseman is trending on Twitter, it's probably not for a good thing.
Yeah, but it's just like consistent. Like we've seen this now for 3 weeks. It's
Well, the thing is,
I just don't
when
know.
he's good, he's like quietly solid, like which is
Right.
fine. That's what I want out of my
Right.
third pairing defenseman. But when he's bad, holy shit, he is bad, and it
Yeah.
hurts. And there was a comment I heard, I think it was on the post game show, on 1260,
Hmm.
and a guy called in, and I wholeheartedly agree with what he said. He said your third pairing can't win you a game, but they could sure as shit lose you the game.
Oh, that's good.
And
Yeah,
they
that's good.
definitely did not help. And I'm not blaming Kulak, I guess, because Kulak has been pretty solid, but Desharnais cannot play that way. So ultimately, that resulted in lots of speculation on whether or not he would be out. Maybe we run 12-6. Do we give Nima Leinen a chance? Anything like that. But in classic Woodcroft fashion, he decided to go right back to him again.
Yeah. I I don't know if I love this because this is very much like the Tippett thing that we saw a couple years ago, where you kind of have a recipe and you keep going back to it. I totally appreciate the fact that Woodcroft has seen what's going on, making some alterations. We've seen him do it in flight in games, but this is one that he's hell bent on.
I mean, I think he loves Vinny a little bit more than I would care to want him to, but they have a bit of connection from the Bakersfield days, so I'm not surprised by it. And I think
So
Vinny is very, very solid, to be fair, on the penalty kill.
I
Um,
agree on the penalty kill. It's nice. The one thing that I think Desharnais is amazing at when he's on his game is he's very physical. You give his limited 8 minutes that he played in game one, not a single hit.
yeah, I think that might have been part of the problem. And like on top of that, he was kind of chasing the puck a lot
Yeah, good
and
point.
like being pressured to the point where he can break up the cycle, but if he's the one with the puck, that's when the issues kind of happen. And I got to bring up this stat. Like, I don't have the exact stat in front of me, so bear with me. But the stat was essentially that Edmonton has a .200 lower save percentage when Desharnais is on the ice on both
Woof.
5v5 and the penalty kill. They had something like a
Woof.
950 save percentage at 5-on-5 when he was off the ice, and it was a 750 when he was on, and that drops to like a 650 when he's on the penalty kill versus 850 when he's not on the ice.
Wow.
So like those are pretty telling. So I don't know if he's just having more like important minutes, like say for example when Nurse is playing against higher quality of competition. So of course he's on the ice for more goals against. And maybe that's the same, especially on the penalty kill for Desharnais, but the 5-on-5 one's more the one that sticks out to me because odds are he's more likely against the third and fourth pairings or sorry, lines. So I would expect him to maybe be a bit more effective than that. So that was a little eye opening.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like ahead to this series, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like I think there's a purpose that he's going to play in this series if it keeps trending the way it's trending.
And speaking
And
of the way it's trending, we could probably get into game two.
okay, your segue is a little bit smoother than mine. Um, yeah, this was a nasty game, and I mean, from anytime there's going to be a gigantic lead, um, they've got nothing else in the tank. So I wasn't shocked that it got a little bit nasty, but I was a little curious to see how the Oilers would respond, whether they'd bite and get into that kind of game. But what are your initial thoughts, other than like the score and the game itself?
Well, leading into the game, me and my friends were sitting on the couch about ready to watch the game, and we did our classic score predictions for the first period. And I vehemently said 4-0 Edmonton, and I will stand by the fact that I said that, and I could find some people to prove that I did say that. And I was flabbergasted that it did end up at that score, and very surprised, and also somewhat angry that I did not bet any money on my confident prediction that I decided to make. But anyway, besides the fact of that, the game as a whole was just fantastic. I can't believe, honestly, the effort that they came out with. I think the shots were like 22-9 after the first period. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how much else you can ask, like from them. How much more you could ask? Maybe more 5-on-5 from them because I think there was a lot of power play stuff going on, but ultimately they got a huge lead to start, and god damn it, they held it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always concerning when they go up because we've seen the Oilers take their foot off the pedal a number of different times, but they did a really good job of keeping themselves composed and not falling too much into the trap of the game that Vegas wanted them to eventually play, which was more of a gritty kind of physical kind of game. But I just from domination from start to finish. Like it was a complete game, and I think the biggest difference between game 1 and game 2 is the whole fucking bus showed up.
Yeah, this was a team effort, like across the board. Yes, 4 of the goals were scored by a combination of McDavid and Draisaitl,
Mhm.
but you can't argue with the way that the rest of the team locked it down and just played their role. Because we don't necessarily need goals from the bottom 6 Like, I like goals from the bottom six, don't get me wrong, but we don't need them if they can go out on the ice and break even. So they don't give up any goals and they have a solid shift of having possession in the offensive zone. Like, that's all I'm really looking for. And we got a lot of that. I saw like a ton of that from, I think it was the McLeod my brain. McLeod, Fogle, and Derek Ryan, when they were out there together, they were holding possession for probably a solid 60 seconds in the zone for the entirety of their shift, almost every time.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very nice to see every role being filled by those players. And like you mentioned too, like it's easy to look at the score sheet and be like, oh, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl will carry the team again. But especially when they're playing together, that leaves three lines wide open to drop the ball and make it an even game. So I mean, the score is also telling of how much the rest of the team put in. It was interesting. So I want to jump back to the first period. The Oilers going like right off the hop with two power play goals, and then at that point, McDavid with the shorty, and they're sitting 3-0. Was the the Draisaitl goal? Sorry, I thought it was on the power play, the fourth one. I want to talk about the goaltender interference call. What's your initial thoughts of what Cassidy was going for? This is back when Hyman got pushed in to Brissois, and just the whole decision to review it.
Desperation is the word that I would use. Like, I obviously didn't agree with the fact that he called it goaltender interference. And in the back of my mind, I see Zach Hyman involved in goaltender interference. I'm like, oh fuck, we're fucked. Like, we lose automatically because they see Zach Hyman, they know what's gonna happen. But then you watch the replay and like, I can't remember who the Vegas defenseman was, but he pushed Hyman directly into Brissois. You could see Hyman going to stop and turn away from Brissois to skate in front of him. And then the D-man's like, no, you're not going anywhere, and pushes him right into him.
Yeah.
So they obviously made the correct call. And I can't believe he'd made that, other than, like I said, out of pure desperation to be like, we could take one off the board. But ultimately, I think it's a ridiculously stupid decision considering how deadly their power play is.
See, I saw that kind of the turning point of the game, where Cassidy's like, this is the game, or like either we keep a goal off the board, or we're basically like giving the game to Edmonton. Because at that point, you not only give Edmonton a 4-0 lead, but you give them a power play. You're basically expecting to be down 5-0. I kind of respect the decision to just throw it, especially with the way that goaltender interference calls have been going this year. I kind of understand why he's like, just fuck it, let's try it. And it kind of just left it up. The right call was made. Obviously the push was very deliberate and is kind of tough to look at, but I mean, there's some ambiguity there. Like, you saw Hyman kind of stop, but if he didn't get pushed, would he have still run into the goalie? Who's to say? I think that's kind of what he was looking at. So I was just curious what your thoughts was just around the decision. I don't mind it. I can definitely see that after they made that decision, obviously Edmonton didn't score to make it 5-0, but the tone of Vegas changed significantly after that goal was allowed.
Well, yeah, I do agree with you that I fully understand his purpose for why he did it, but I still think that it was like a dumb decision and honestly showed lack of faith in your team to be like,
Yeah.
we got to do this or we lose. Like, you're just giving up in the second period, essentially.
Yeah, I can't argue that thought.
Sorry,
Definitely
that was the
not.
first period. What am I talking about?
That was the
Second period?
first, yeah.
No,
yeah,
wait,
yeah.
yes, it was. Okay.
It was.
So,
right at the
yeah,
end.
they're essentially giving up in the first period. Like, there's still 2 more periods to play. You watch that. I think it's pretty blatant. I do agree with you. Maybe if he didn't push him, Hyman might have still touched him and it would have been enough. Brissois was also a foot out of his fucking crease. So, like, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, that doesn't show the faith in your team if you watch that replay and you're like, yeah, that's challengeable. Like, maybe you're showing faith in your goalie because your goalie's like, yeah, he hit me. And you're like, okay, we challenge it. But maybe you should watch the fucking tape before you challenge it. Like, call Woodcroft, ask him, how do you do it? How do you win every challenge you make? Because I can't seem to win one. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was a questionable decision at best against Edmonton's defense. And then, like you said, the game completely changed face after that, and Vegas decided to dig deep and go and just play like a bunch of little fucking assholes.
Yeah, they at that point they decided to turn heel, and it was yeah, it started kind of midway in the second where you start seeing like the little shit after the whistle starting, and then um the scrum that kind of broke everything, like the chaos just ensued after that was the whole Evander Kane thing going on. I want to get your take. Let's get into that. A lot of people really not big fans of Kane's uh attack down in the corner.
I mean, I was a fan of it, but I also thought it was kind of stupid. Just the way that he did it, and specifically taking what 5 kidney shots at was it Colasar?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was unnecessary, and that's putting it lightly. Like,
Yeah.
I understand the like you might be mad and you're doing it, but like you got a guy in a fucking headlock and you're just feeding him kidney shots. Like, you're asking to fucking get kicked out of the game for that. And a lot of people I saw afterwards, like some Vegas and neutral fans were calling for like a suspension because of that.
That's the joke.
Yeah,
Like,
like honestly, I don't agree with that at all. And clearly, it's a roughing penalty.
yeah.
But like, I'm not surprised Edmonton came away on the penalty kill after that one. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
Um,
I can definitely see how like Evander Kane a little bit heated in the moment, a little bit of retaliation for what was getting what Hyman was going through, and um it's a penalty for sure. I don't
yeah.
suspension is where I think it becomes laughable.
Oh, I agree. And ultimately, like this, that was Kane going too far in the sense of like you mentioned, getting potentially overwhelmed by his emotions and
Mhm.
going a little bit too far and going over that line. But then after that, he walked that line perfectly for the
Oh, I
rest of
know.
the like 15 minutes that were left in that game after that happened.
Oh, I I think Evander Kane is one of the greatest players in the NHL. I'm gonna put Ryan Reeves also on that list. But of getting underneath people's teeth and then letting them ride that line and not retaliating. I don't know if I've seen Evander Kane laugh or smile more than after that happened the entire game. He didn't do anything, but he was so underneath Vegas's skin that like he was almost the victim towards the end of the game.
Well, my friend made me laugh pretty good after the game because I think it was when Kane and Hyman were in the box after Hyman and Carrier just had a little tussle where Carrier
Yeah.
just hugged him. Um, and then you got Carrier and Kane screaming at each other back and forth in the box, and Hyman's just sitting there like arms crossed, like minding his own business, like nothing even happened. Like he's just got
Yeah.
a 2-minute minor, and these guys just fought. But anyway, they're yelling at each other. Then next shift, Carrier's out there. He goes after Cody Cece.
Yeah.
And all my friend kept saying to me was like, all they're yelling back and forth is Carrier's in the box. He's like, I'm coming for Cody. I'm going to go for Cody, man. It's just like, what does Cece have to do with this? Why are you going after him? He's like,
Got
oh,
him.
I don't care. I'm going for him, though. And
But
like,
Cece wanted nothing of that either.
no, Cece's not really that type of guy either. And like, kudos to Kulak as well for fighting, even though that wasn't much of a fight. They didn't really let him go because he couldn't get his helmet off his head. That chin strap was fucking tight as fuck.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, like they walked that line perfectly. Costin took a little brawl, even though that was a half-assed one too. Like nobody could really swing, even if they wanted to.
So I don't know if you saw that clip of when Carrier had McDavid tied up all along the wall between the two benches, and he was on the ice with Costin. I forget the other winger, but McDavid's being tied up. He's kind of being pushed back and being let, and Costin sees it out of the corner of his eyes and beelines it towards the bench. And they slowed it down. And they showed McDavid being like, "No, just get to the bench. Get to the bench." Yeah, it's pretty
Well, in a
funny.
game like that, you really want Edmonton to be composed and disciplined, and hopefully not do anything that could, like, say, jeopardize the next game by
Right.
doing something stupid. And I think they did that really well. And the next game, I could see it being an absolute clusterfuck. Like, I would not be surprised if the next game was like 7-6 because there's 10 power plays for each team because shit's fucking flying off the handle.
Yep. It's gonna be an interesting series to see how things shake out because it's gonna be nasty. It's gonna be heavy. But we've had nothing but like offense the entire time too.
Well, that's true. I don't know. Edmonton had quite a bit of defense going on in game 2.
Oh yeah, I guess you can't deny that either.
Like, if we can
Just
find a way to play that neutral defense with also having our high octane offense, there's no stopping Edmonton.
that's the thing is like everyone keeps like outside of like Oilers fans, everyone keeps joking on like the defense and stuff and the 5-on-5 stuff with Edmonton. Um, the thing is Edmonton can be the best team in the NHL by far by having a very average defense, like average to even low defense. But um, I don't think we've talked enough about game 2 because we have far too many things that we skipped over. You get to a 5-1 win by a couple things, and it starts off with the power play. Yeah, I'll just pass it to you because this is insane.
I mean, the power play, what else is there to say besides you just look at that fucking percentage and you just smile? Like, the fact that Edmonton went, I believe, 2 for 4 in this game, and their power play percentage went down because of it. Like, that just speaks volumes for how good their power play has been. And it's just absolutely bananas. If you're Vegas, you are quivering in your boots and afraid to do the slightest thing wrong because Edmonton might go on that power play.
It was funny. I don't know if you saw the change between game 1 and game 2 that Kevin BX had brought up in between the zone, but it was actually pretty interesting where they had the way they set up McDavid or Draisaitl on that inside point line, and they were losing puck battles to the puck in game 1, and it was simply just because of the distance that the player was towards the blue line. And when they choked up in game 2, which they're still like 50%. They won every puck draw, like right off the hop, and got control of the puck. It's just insane to see still like this team making little tweaks with like the most insane success on a special teams unit ever.
I'm just like, I'm still flabbergasted by how good it is. I think that's the second time I've said that word today.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it doesn't just run through McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, everybody's like, yeah, that's all you see is their goals on the board. But like, Hyman's net front presence cannot be like scoffed at. Nugent's ability to just be that great half wall guy. He put up what, 2 assists in this game. So hopefully he's heating up a little bit. I'd like to see him hit the back of the net. He's giving me flashes of last season where he was just the assist man with no goals.
Yeah.
And then that leaves Bouchard on the point, who had a huge impact in this game again. Like, he obviously had his big like slap shot from the point that went in. Great screen by Hyman, so Brissois didn't see it for a second. But that first goal, too, was just Bouchard walking in and taking a shot on net that created that huge rebound that went straight to Draisaitl.
Yeah, like, welcome to Evan Bouchard's coming out party. Like, this is insane. 14 points in 8 playoff games. Like, this guy is a monster. And I keep getting like, I'm not looking to the offseason. We're not going to talk contracts, but it's in the back of my mind. I'm like, this is not helping. This is not helping, but fuck it. I'll take it. Like, to think that he's the 3rd highest scoring player on the team right now. And you have the guys like Zach Hyman and Nugent Hopkins, who had over 100-point season behind him. It's just wild. It's wild to see what he's doing. And the things that I'm loving is, when is the last time you're really hearing a lot of people bitching and complaining about Bouchard's defensive play?
Honestly, I haven't heard a word of it. Like,
Right?
I don't know if that's the Ekholm presence or if maybe the other people are making bigger mistakes and attracting more attention to their play. But honestly, I think Bouchard's just been extremely steady. And that calm demeanor that he's always kind of come with, that rather than calm demeanor, that lack of sense of urgency that he has really kind of helped him out quite a bit because he just doesn't panic when he's under pressure.
Yeah, it's nice to see, and it can finally take away the conversation and the wonderment of what would happen if this power play had Evan Bouchard on it. Well, we now know that, this is what happens.
Yeah, I guess we go from like 30 some percent to 50 some percent.
Yeah, no kidding. But we can't leave this game without talking about maybe the best fucking press conference question answering segment I've ever seen from this team. You've got Connor McDavid like looking at reporters talking about Leon Draisaitl, who's like questioning whether or not he's one of the best players in the playoffs, and he's like, dude, like he's one of the best players in the world, like sometimes the best player in the world. It's amazing to see the team being like, yeah, welcome to everything that we've been saying for the past couple years. And then you've got fucking Evander Kane dropping the quote of the century. I could not believe that the amount of like cuss words, and this is a uncensored podcast, so I don't give a shit, but it's amazing to see the amount of like swearing that's going on in these interviews in the playoffs. It's making hockey so much more entertaining to follow up. It almost makes the press conferences and the post game conferences like appointment television.
Yeah, it's must-watch TV because you just want to catch that slip here and there where they just drop it, like Ilya Samsonov when they asked him about Bobrovsky's. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Right. Yeah, it's very entertaining. That's the kind of shit that the NHL needs.
Oh, for sure. What were your exact thoughts on Kane's comments, anyways?
Just the fact that like he backed up everything he did. He had no regrets, and I think you're starting to see confidence from him. He's never been really shy to show it, but I think you're starting to see it in his game. I saw a tweet last night that said he had 0 points. He had like a couple hits, and he was still extremely, extremely productive in this hockey game. And I think that goes a long way to what we were saying earlier about how this team can win 5-1 and have, two guys scoring the majority of the goals and everybody playing a role. Like, I think Kane is fitting back into his role. He's becoming that little like pain in the ass that if you're an Oilers fan, I don't blame you for like not standing this guy, but he's getting other team skin. The comments are going to do nothing but fuel like animosity from their team. Not to mention the fucking tweet from the Edmonton Oilers showing him blowing a kiss to the fan, flipping him the bird. Like, we're turning full heel now. Like this is amazing.
I mean, I'm down for it all day. And you can look at Toronto having to deal with Kachuk to get like a similar idea of how that feels, and I'm sure Toronto knows exactly how it feels right now. And not that Kane's been as productive, but I think he's just as much in those guys' head as Kachuk has been.
Yeah. The one thing that I did forget to actually bring up is before we leave game 2, Stuart Skinner had an extremely solid game in game 2, and I don't think he gets enough credit for the bounce back. And I'm just hoping that everybody after game 1 who's like, we need to put Campbell in, he's a better goaltender, he needs to shake up the team, this kid's gonna bounce back. Like, give him a chance, let him have a team play in front of him and see how he plays.
Yeah, it's nice when the team actually shows up, that's for sure.
Yeah. But that kind of wraps up things for the first 2 games of the series. Obviously, we move into game 3 on Monday and then game 3 on Wednesday. But I saw you had some other notes from the series so far.
From the current series, yes. So I noticed, and I'm sure some other people have noticed as well, that Edmonton's all 3 of their losses have just been 1-goal games, barring the empty net goal versus Vegas in that loss. So even though Edmonton has lost 3 times, which happens, you're going to lose in the playoffs. Not every series will be a sweep. They have been competitive, quote unquote, in every single game.
Yeah, like the other thing that I saw is that was the first game one was the first regulation loss the Edmonton Oilers have had since March 11th.
It's pretty crazy to think about it like that.
That's nuts.
It's
That's
nearly
nuts.
a month and a half of not having a regulation loss.
Yeah.
And then
And
the other comment I had was just Draisaitl has 13 fucking goals in 8 games.
yeah,
Like,
it's
I've seen people being like, wait, he has 13 goals, not points? I thought he had 13 points, and I was impressed.
well, and he's not only on the track to hit the NHL record for single playoffs, but like I saw a stat that was like the first 2 rounds back to 1919, where like I think he's 1 or 2 goals away from tying that for the first 2 rounds. But I mean, you play 2 rounds back in 1919, you win the cup. He's on a torrid pace, and who would have like everyone has a shoe in for McDavid being the Hart winner, the best player on the planet. Draisaitl's been our best player in the playoffs. I don't think that's debatable.
Listen, if the playoffs ended today, Draisaitl gets the Conn Smythe, no question. Obviously, across the
Sorry?
league, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they ended today, obviously they don't. So
Yeah.
nobody get too excited about it. But there's no reason why he wouldn't win it, because he's leading in points, he's destroying in goals, like almost 2 above Mikko Rantanen, who's not even in the playoffs anymore. Like I don't know. It's hard to not think that way anyways. And
Yeah.
obviously you don't want to count your chickens before they hatch. So I'm not claiming that he is going to win it by any means, but if it did end today, he would.
So does part of you not like want to just go back and imagine what a healthy Leon Draisaitl does last year?
Like Edmonton wins the cup last year if he's healthy. He puts up fucking an extra point per game at least.
Like Buddy's hobbling on one leg and still putting up stupid points. Well, we'll just wrap up quickly here. Just taking a look at the other series right now. Carolina up 2-1 on New Jersey is kind of. I heard a couple people complaining about how obviously not vested in either of the teams on Friday and Saturday. Only one game in the NHL for both Saturday and the night before on Friday, and both of them kind of blowouts. Doesn't do a great job for drawing people to the NHL, but Carolina has surprisingly taken control of this series. I thought it was going to be a lot tighter.
I mean, New Jersey made a great effort and won today to make it so it's not a complete blowout. I'd like to say too, I was writing these notes down, and the game wasn't over. It was 7-1, and literally by the time I was typing these notes and finishing my notes, it was seemingly felt like a minute. I look back and it's 7-4. And I'm like, oh shit, Carolina might come back. Maybe I should delete this note that says they're leading 2-1 and maybe leave a TBD on there.
Yeah, it's funny just when you think things are done. It's even going back to this series too. Like when Edmonton tied it up 3-3 in game 1, I saw somebody being like, I just went to the fucking washroom. What the fuck happened? Like it's comical how quickly things can change. We have Dallas tied to Seattle 1-1. Game 3 is set for today. This series is interesting because I think Seattle's going to put a push for this. They obviously surprised Dallas with the win. Like, at what point here do we start taking Seattle really seriously?
Well, because we don't have to play them yet, I still don't overly take them seriously.
Okay.
I feel like maybe I should, but they have a ton of depth. Don't get me wrong. The depth they have, that's fantastic. Their D is very solid. That's fantastic. I'd still I think their goalie's playing pretty well, but he doesn't scream cup-winning goalie to me, even though he did it a couple of years ago. No, he wasn't their goalie last year. Never mind. Yeah, Grubauer didn't win last year. So, yeah, I don't know. When we play them, I will take them seriously, but they got to get through Dallas to really prove it to me, because getting past the super injured Colorado Avalanche didn't do much for me.
Yeah, it's probably just the allure of the Stanley Cup, former Stanley Cup champions. I don't know.
Well, it's hard to even call them that at that point when, like, I think 4 of their top 6 were gone.
Right. And then yeah, I think just the goaltending duo is just going to be it's going to be a battle, man. And then finally we're talking as Toronto and Florida play game 3 right now. It's 1-0 Toronto. I'm floored that it's 2-0 Florida. I'm floored because I didn't expect it, not because of the way that Florida's been playing though.
Yeah, like I expected at least Toronto to win one of those 2 games.
Oh fuck, man.
I'm pretty disappointed in them, to be perfectly honest with you. And who knows? They could come and win a couple games on the road, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, not being a super attached person to either team. I was at the gym watching the game. I saw it was 2-0 game 2. I saw it was 2-0 Toronto. I was like, oh, okay, this is like 10 minutes into the game. I was like, they've got this. I made dinner, I sat down. It's like the end of the second, it was 3-2. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like they just crumbled. So Florida is proving to be more and more of a scary thought than I thought they were. Like this is a grinding team. And it's funny, I saw a podcast with Sean Avery on it, and he predicted this like 2 weeks ago. I mean, that's Sean Avery being Sean Avery though towards Toronto. But he's like, dude, they're going to beat you into the ground. And so far they kind of have.
Well, you have to give props too to Sergei Bobrovsky. He's channeling his previous Vezina seasons against Toronto so far and playing out of this world. And then I always hate to say it, but you can't argue with the results. Matthew Tkachuk has been unreal for them so far these playoffs, and especially in these 2 games against Toronto.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, that game goes today. We have obviously got the game 3 Monday, game 4 on Wednesday. We'll see how things shake out, but the Edmonton Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights tied at 1, heading back to Edmonton. Let's go Oilers.